Hi, you guys. Welcome back. My name is Carrie Penny. I am the Happy Crafty Homemaker, and today we're doing the comparative review of Mandala Tweed Stripes, Lion Brand Mandala Tweed Stripes, Red Heart Roll With It Tweed, and Premier Candy Shop. Whew. So I am missing my Mandala Tweed Stripes ball band. And since I'm sitting here filming, I guess I could have written everything down, but didn't. And I'm also missing... Oh, no, wait. I just found one. Yay. I'm also missing my scraps from Roll With It Tweed and Mandala Tweed. But, all right. So let's do a quick recap of what I did with each yarn, with the exception of the washing swatches. Oh, I found one. These are all plied differently, so I was really wanting to discuss with you guys the plying differences while we did this. So with Mandala Tweed, I did an abbreviated Hill 60 hat, a short cowl, a granny stitch hat, and a granny stitch scarf. This is from the Unraveled Mitten. This is from Yarnspirations. This has no pattern, and I cannot remember the writer of this pattern. If you search it, you'll find it. Like Google search it, put it in Ravelry, search it. It is linked in show and tell videos 58, 57, and 56. So that's what I did with my Mandala Tweed Stripes. With my Roll With It Tweed, I did the same hat, same scarf, and instead of the cowl, I got two baby hats, or one preemie, one baby. I did have to add 2 rows using Red Heart collage that I had left over. And finally, sorry, there is a lot of stuff sitting in a circle around me down here. I did a full-length Hill 60 hat because I had 3 cakes of the Premier Candy Shop. The Granny Stitch hat, the Granny Stitch scarf. These were... I just filmed my show and tell 58. Hopefully this is going up on Monday. So nothing from this group has been folded. I did kind of almost toddler size hat, baby size hat, and a preemie hat. So a lot of stuff got made from these 7 cakes of yarn. All of these are going to be donated to different organizations and charities. So nothing is going to waste. A lot of these are things I wouldn't use. Obviously, I don't need 900 baby hats. All right. For the 3 things we're going to be comparing will be how did it work in the Granny Stitch hat, how did it work in the Granny Stitch scarf, and how did it work into the Hill 60 hat. Those are the patterns that I did identically using the exact same patterns for the purpose of this review. Oh my goodness, you guys. So these are very, very different yarns. Mandala Tweed, Roll With It Tweed, and Candy Shop are all 100% acrylic yarns. They are plied differently from each other. They're from 3 separate manufacturers. All right, I just had... Wherever I stuck my other ball bands, that's where my Candy Shop ball band is for this. This colorway, by the way, is very berry. Mandala Tweed is 150 grams, 426 yards, size 4. Recommended needle is a size 7. Recommended hook size I. Roll With It Tweed is 150 grams, 296 yards. 100% acrylic. Recommended needle size is a size 8. Recommended hook is a size I, also a size 4. Premier Candy Shop is 140 grams, 260 yards, size 4. Recommended needle is a size 8. Recommended hook is a size I. So, as you know, and ironic, how this just happened to lay out, I gave this between a 3 and a 3.5. No, I gave this between a 3 and 3.5. This is the Mandala Tweed. The Roll With It Tweed from Red Heart was between a 3.5 and a 4. And the Premier Candy Shop, that review should have been up on Saturday. I gave this one a 4. I really enjoyed it. They all work up so completely different from each other. This one, I didn't like the texture. I had a lot of manufacturing defects in it. Now, I have since learned that this colorway seems to have a lot of issues. This is Buddha. There did seem to be a lot of issues that you guys had also had with Buddha in the manufacturing of it, from knots, fake knots. Almost everybody universally seemed to have an issue with splitting. Like I said, some yarns just split. That's fine. Whatever. I did work this from the inside out and the outside in. Same thing. Same thing. Trying to see if I could alleviate the splitting issues, make it easier, and particularly to crochet. Knitting all 3 of these was a lot easier than crocheting them. And this entire thing was actually kicked off by somebody asking me specifically to do a review on Mandala Tweed stripes and how did it crochet. So Mandala had a lot of splitting. I didn't really have any splits with the Red Heart or the Premier. The Mandala and the Premier both feel very, very soft in the cake. Whereas this one already feels lofty when you touch it. This one did not feel as dense as it is, and particularly when I crocheted it. And now no, I was right. This is the Mandala Tweed hat. This is the Roll With It Tweed. Let's grab this would just be easier if I just hold the same 3 hats. I followed the exact same directions, used the exact same hook. Not I used the eye hook from one, because I have multiple sets of the Clover and more hooks. No, I use the exact same hooks for these. The top part of these hats use a size H hook. The bottom part uses a size 7 hook. You can see the size difference. Mandala Tweed being the smallest, Roll With It Tweed medium, and slightly larger than that ended up being the Premier Candy Shop. They're all slightly different length. They're all about the same width. I mean, it's not rounder. The stitches just turned out a little bit longer for some reason. None of these have been washed and dried. However, I did do washing swatches of all 3, and we'll get to those in just a minute. I was very surprised. I mean, there have been a number of Lion Brand yarns that I have worked with over the years. They were the first company where I felt like I was buying fancy yarn, because I grew up using Red Heart Super Saver, and being able to purchase my first, it was actually Woolies. So it was one of my first regularly purchased natural fiber yarns or natural fiber content yarns. I still love working with Woolies. It can be a little splitty sometimes too. It's a very loosely plied yarn, but I still love it. I use it all the time. I use Vanna's Choice all the time. I really like Heartland. Heartland, I actually think knits up better than it crochets. It's very similar in texture to the Mandala Tweed, where it's got this weird squeakiness to it. But when I knit it, it always turns into such a beautiful fabric. And most of those are slightly heathered, not tweeded, which is a texture I also really love. I love tweed. So yeah, I was a little surprised. This was very squeaky. I did not find the Candy Shop to be squeaky, even though when it came to density of the fabrics, I found these to be very, very similar. The more I've been handling this, the less the density issue has been apparent. I just finished these. I mean, this has been sitting here by itself now for a week. I finished it last week. It's very squishy and dense, not stiff and dense. One of the biggest ways, though, to see the contrast between these yarns is see how they handled washing. All of these swatches were done using a size I hook. Now, I did not have that much of this one left over, the Mandala Tweed. So the Roll With It and the Candy Shop are significantly larger swatches, but they are equal number of single crochet, half double crochet, and double crochet. Well, in this case, double, half double crochet. They were run through permanent press on my washer, which is set to about 90 degrees, and permanent press dryer, extra dry, which just means it runs a few extra minutes. All of them were washed in a color appropriate wash that was just clothes, no jeans, no towels. So once again, the hilariousness of how this worked. Mandala Tweed held up the worst. It's very, very haloed. It's got a lot of fuzzies on it, and it fuzzed significantly going through the wash. And this was the washing instructions, I believe, for this one. Yeah, machine wash up to 105 degrees, no ironing, machine dry. So following those directions, since this was the first one, I handled the other two the same way, but you can see just how much this fuzzed. And if you were making an amigurumi and wanted to have a slightly fuzzy texture to it, like that would be great. And this did significantly soften in the wash. It's much more pliable. It's much looser. It feels much better on the skin. I mean, not that it feels bad straight off the hook, but improvement after washing. Roll With It Tweed also haloed significantly, but the yarn itself has a lot of halo before you work it. That's just my tail, sorry. I trimmed my tail before I threw them into the wash, which is not how I'd handle a normal finished object. There is a significant halo already to the yarn though, so this just increased the expected halo. Now the washing instructions for this are actually wash cold and dry in a cool iron, I believe, or dry in a cool iron, dry in a cool dryer, tumble dry low. Yes. Machine wash cold, gentle cycle, tumble dry low. So this was washed not using its recommended settings. Stitches, the yarn expanded into the stitches quite nicely. It's got a nice, soft, snuggly texture. The haloing is a little bit of a concern, but once again, I didn't wash it to its recommended settings. It's a more gentle setting, but you can see on the yarn itself, I think a little bit, how it's actually got a natural halo anyway. So not unexpected that that one haloed. Candy Shop, on the other hand, had significantly less haloing. I think this is the one that actually did better when I didn't. Yeah. So you can see the halo on that one. There is a halo. However, it's not dense. It doesn't seem to be pulling her out of it to get that halo. And the care instructions on this one are machine wash cold, tumble dry. So once again, I still didn't wash this one in the proper load. I don't think this one would have really haloed at all had I washed it appropriately. Sorry, I'm getting a whole bunch of messages. If you want to understand what's going on here, please flip back and watch Show and Tell number 58, where I discuss the craziness going on in my city right now. Very, very briefly. It's at the beginning of the episode. So, breaking down these yarns, once again, even after the review's done, I stand by my ratings. I think Mandala Tweed Stripes is right there in the middle. A number of you guys have emailed me or messaged me concerned with how that reflects on Lion Brand and Mandala as a whole. This is not a reflection of Mandala as a whole. Mandala Tweed Stripes is plied very, very differently than Mandala is. It's got this very, very loose texture to the two strands that are in one color, two in the other color. The two same color strands are almost felted together, like they were spun together before being plied into the yarn or twisted into the final yarn. But the two colors separate very easily from each other, which is where I actually had a lot of my splitting. Now, if you compare that to regular, make sure this is a mandala cupcake or a mandala cake. This is spun very, very differently. This is spun like a standard baby weight acrylic. It's a nice solid yarn. I've worked with it a number of times. I've had zero issues with splitting from these. These hold up very well in the wash. They don't really pill or fuzz significantly after the first couple washings. The thing I've washed the most, I've only washed twice though in the washer, and I've air dried it both times I've washed it. So I can't speak to the long-term durability of the standard mandala, washing it and drying it. But I have used it for a number of projects, and none of the issues I had from manufacturing to technical with Mandala Tweed Stripes should reflect on the Mandala line as a whole. This is very much just my experience with Tweed Stripes. With that said, it was a very frustrating yarn to work with. In touching the cake, it was so luscious and soft. I was so excited about working with it. And when I started working with it, I found it to be very dry. It was very sticky. It was very uncomfortable to work with it. It didn't live up to my expectations of what it should be based on touch. Because it didn't in the cake feel like Heartland. I didn't know it was going to work like Heartland. Heartland to me always reminds me of cotton. That's a very good description for it. This is the third video I filmed today. My allergies are starting to act up. I'm trying to keep my throat from getting too dry and having dry coughing just from a dry throat. While I don't find Heartland at all uncomfortable to work with, I'm used to working with it. It is one of those weird things I've noticed working with it so many times now. It's always been kind of a stand apart texture from the rest of the Red Heart collection and Red Heart lines. This one is more similar to that than it is to Mandala, though. Unfortunately, Heartland, I've never had an issue with pilling and fuzzing to this degree. This one definitely did not hold up to its own washing instructions very well, in my personal opinion. The Roll With It Tweed, I gave that one between a 3 and 4. Expectation from touching the cake, it was dead on. It worked up exactly how I expected it to work up. I had no issues with the manufacturing on this one. It is soft, it's fuzzy, it's lofty, it's squishy. Definitely, in my opinion, you could get away with making, if you made like a sick day cardigan or sweater, and that's what I call anything that's made as comfort wear, snuggly wear, squishy wear. This is definitely one you need to follow the care instructions. Take a little bit more time in caring for your garment, but you could get away with doing a garment out of this. Whereas Mandala Tweed Stripes, I would definitely stick to hats, scarves, and maybe ponchos or shawls. I would not recommend it with the pilling factor or the fuzzing factor, which leads to pilling. I would not recommend it necessarily for a sweater if you wash your clothes fairly regularly. Now, if you hand wash that and lay it flat to dry, it'll do fine. So if you do choose to make a sweater out of it, keep that in mind. Roll With It Tweed, I think if you washed it on cold, air dried it instead of putting it through the dryer, you could definitely get a couple years out of a good sweater made out of this without it getting that old look. Now, there are things that you can buy to shave pills, and there are things specifically made, and I'll try to remember to leave one link down below, the really good one. It is a little bit more expensive, but it doesn't snag on your clothing and rip the fabric. It just grazes the fabric and takes the pills away. If you're willing to do that, you can put it through the washer and dryer, and I think you'll be fine. If you don't want to do that, wash it in the machine on cold, air dry it. But I think you could get away with a cozy Huga sweater out of this. The Premier Candy Shop, I was actually really surprised at how well it came out of the wash. So both of these expanded into the stitches. The yarn swelled. It got more aerated. I was really surprised, though, at the lack of fuzzing. I mean, it really did just hold up very, very nicely through the washer and through the dryer. The fabric did become hardier. I don't want to say thicker, but thicker. Because the yarn expanded, so it's more aerated. So it's actually got a little bit more squish, especially down here on the single crochets. It doesn't make the knots more apparent, though, so it doesn't feel like in the thinner spot of the stitch, you know, it doesn't feel like you've got like tangles and knots underneath you. And the double crochet, it's beautiful. You could definitely make a sweater out of this if you were going to want to get a couple years worth of wear out of it. I believe it would hold up very nicely. It will be very chunky, though. This, especially washed, it's as far out towards a 5 as you could be and still be a 4 once it's been washed. All of these say to use a size I crochet hook. I would definitely recommend going up 1, if not 2 hooks for all 3 yarns. This one, because it's so thick unwashed, it's very dense. It doesn't make a very nice fabric. Now washed, you could do an eye, and I think you'd be fine. The swatch is done in an eye, but it is losing a lot of the integrity for the fuzz. This one, because it expanded so far into the stitches, I mean, you can see how dense those got, even down here in the double crochets. When you look at the, find my least handled thing, this is all double crochets. You can see there's a little bit more gapping. The stitches are a little bit more pronounced. Whereas once I washed it, they kind of blur a little bit. It's like using a blurring primer or something on your skin, blurring powder. Filter. There you go. That's a more common thing people use, a filter. It's more like having filter on your stitches. And this one, I mean, it just expands so much. I mean, you have your individual space because there was so little halo, but I mean, you can see how narrow these stitches look unwashed versus these double crochets washed. Definitely could get a sweater out of this. One of you specifically asked whether or not you could get a baby blanket out of it. I definitely think you could. That would be a very, very squishy baby blanket. But I'd definitely consider using at least a 6mm hook or a size J hook instead of the I 5.5mm. Yeah, they're very, very similar. The finished results were very different from each other, but not completely apparent until I did the swatching. And this is not something I'm going to continue doing for every project. It started primarily because I was trying so hard to like this yarn. I really wanted to give it every opportunity to wow me, impress me, make me excited to maybe buy it again or use it again. I just didn't feel that. The next yarn I buy for review will actually be the Mandala Thick and Something. That was a requested review. So I was hoping to get out to Joann's this week. Unfortunately, the whole week just got away from me. I've been unable to do it. So I might just order some online. I think Joann's online carries it, or there was something else I needed to get from Lion Brand to finish one of my other projects, and I can't remember what it was. So if I place an order, I'll go ahead and order 2 cakes of that and just do a normal review, normal for my channel at least, on it. I would definitely say if you find Premier Candy Shop appealing, I mean, this is all my Candy Shop yarns plus behind me. It has a nice color combination. None of these are similar. If you didn't see my video specifically talking about that one, the way the color changes are done is 1 ply. That's the middle of the color change. What they do is they change it in 1 single ply. So it is a fully randomized yarn. You never know where the color is going to go next as it's coming up, unless you can look at the cake and see what it's doing. I held up all 3 cakes of this that I have, and you could see the difference. But you can tell in here that it's an individual, each individual ply changes color, and it's at random. It's like they spin it up, put a whole bunch of these fuzzy scraps together, twist it up, make a yarn out of it, and you never know what it's going to be like. I also showed you in the video, you know, we got repeat color changes back to back, and that is how subtle that color change comes in. I mean, you can see where the white starts to drop out and it becomes green very slowly in there. So I really liked that. I really liked how it turned out in the knitted hat. You can see right there is where it's changing color, and 1 strand is slowly changing over to blue. So you get a much more gradated color change in this one. That's not to say I didn't like the way, I mean, this one does it by the 2 ply. This one does it in 1 of the ply. I wish I knew where that scrap was. Unfortunately, when you are trying to hold on to pieces of yarn like that, it's very hard. But I think they all serve different purposes. This is probably not one of the Mandala Tweed stripes is not one I'm probably going to buy again. Roll With It Tweed I would definitely use again. There are a couple patterns I think it would be beautiful in. Sorry. It's been absolutely crazy with the messages today. It is what it is, I guess. I think this would be beautiful in Rel's Yvette shawl. This would make a beautiful poncho or swancho. Anything where you want to wear a blanket. I really think this would be fantastic. And then Candy Shop is much hardier. I think this would make a beautiful sweater. Like I said, I would definitely knit it or go up to a J hook. Find a pattern that calls for size 4 yarn and a J or K. Or a 6mm, 6.5mm. I would definitely not do anything with heavy texture in this yarn unless you want it to be very, very bulky on your body, which most ladies are not looking to add a whole lot of bulk. So they do serve different purposes. Definitely would buy again. Not that I need to. Would buy for the right project. Probably will not buy if I see it on sale again. So if you have a very specific question that I didn't cover in any of my individual reviews or the direct comparison of how these 3 worked up, please leave a comment down below. I really have been very impressed with the reinforcement you guys are giving each other, the conversation you guys are starting with each other. When I ask you guys to, if your experience is different, share, I genuinely mean it. I mean, I learned so much about y'all's experience with the Mandala Tweed stripes because you commented. Finding out other people had issues with the Buddha colorway, and I can't remember if it was Shooting Star or Copper Penny, but a lot of you guys had the same kinds of issues I did. Not just the splitting, but the manufacturing defects in very specific colorways. It's not uniform across all the colorways that you're getting faux knots, lots of knots, uneven changing, uneven tension in the yarn. And I wouldn't know that if you hadn't commented. So please leave your comments down below so everybody can see what your opinion is. If you have a question about the yarns in particular, please go ahead, leave a comment down below. If I don't get to it immediately, somebody else might answer your question. So, you know, y'all have been fantastic for this comparative review, especially, you know, I hate having to put up things that I don't like. I mean, talking about things I don't like is very, very hard for me because that might be your favorite yarn and I don't want to insult you, but I don't like it. As with, you know, the giveaway I have running until St. Patrick's Day, you know, I don't like using blanket style yarn that much. And it's not so much I don't like the finished fabric. I don't like using it. I don't like working with it. Amigurumi, I didn't mind it too much when I did my little Cole guys, but larger projects with it, it frustrates me. But a lot of you guys love that yarn. And I don't want you to think, like, because I don't like it, you're not supposed to like it. That ain't, you do you. Whatever you like, you do you. That's why I do try to generally give you more technical information to help you make a decision. But once again, it's really up to your preference and what you enjoy working with. You know, if you really like cotton, how this feels working, you might not mind that. That might be fine for you. For me, it was, You might want a super fuzzy yarn for a project. Like I said, I think that would actually work great for amigurumi. I mean, I'm not generally a fan of faux fur, but I do have one line I really like for amigurumi. So yeah, definitely comment down below, especially if your opinion's different than mine. I actually find that helpful, and I think it's helpful for other people too. So comment below if you have a question about this yarn. You can also email me, send me a message on Instagram. I'm trying to get better at responding quicker. I am one person. I am only human. I have other parts of my life aside from this, so it does get a little bit hectic sometimes. I do not have prices for any of these yarns at hand. And I'm not going to promise that I will have edited this to put the pricing in. But if you just go out on Google, I think Joann's has sold all these at one point. You can also go directly to the websites to find them. I found my Mandala Tweed at Michael's in person. I ordered Roll With It Tweed from Red Heart before all that got consolidated onto the Yarnspirations website. And I order most of my Premier stuff directly from Premier. Occasionally I've picked it up at Joann's when it's been on sale with a coupon. But my closest Joann's is 40 minutes away. So since I moved, it's been a little harder to get to a Joann's. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Please give me feedback if you enjoyed the style review. If you don't really care what style review I do, you just want information. All of that stuff is actually very helpful for me. I want, in particularly this review section, to be about meeting your needs and giving you the kind of information that you want. So you guys take care. I look forward to seeing you real soon. And I guess that's goodbye. Bye, guys.